On the island of Sodor, Sir Topham Hatt is very proud of his engines. He likes them to be on time, puffing proudly, and always helping each other to be really useful. One morning, Thomas puffed into Brendam Docks.
Good morning, Salty. Good morning, Edward.
My, your cheeks are as red as me paintwork, me hearty.
I know. I've been pushing and pulling heavy cars all morning, and I still have a lot of jobs to do.
Suddenly, Sir Topham Hatt raced into the docks in Winston. He's scrunched to a stop by Thomas.
Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Thomas. Today is my birthday, and I am to go shopping with Lady Hat and Dowager Hat.
Happy birthday, sir.
Thank you, Thomas. I would like you to take Winston on your jobs today. Winston is new to Sodor. It is important that he sees what it is to be really useful.
Thomas beamed from buffer to buffer.
Of course, sir. Right away, sir.
And then come back to meet me here at tea time.
Shiver me timbers, me hearties. I remember a story that Edward told me about a birthday surprise for Sir Topham Hatt when he was just a young man.
Thomas's firebox fizzed.
Tell us, Salty.
Salty smiled.
Well now, this goes back a long way, me hearties. Back when Edward first arrived on Sodor. Every year, on his birthday, Sir Topham Hatt and Edward would visit all of the stations on the railway and have a slice of birthday cake with the passengers, always in his favourite carriage, the oldest carriage on Sodor, even older than Edward.
He loved riding in that carriage. I remember his smile. It would light up the sky.
Thomas and Winston listened. Even Cranky stopped cranking. Their eyes were wide with wonder.
Ah, 'tis a pity nobody has seen that carriage for years. Anyways, I've jobs to do, and so have ye.
Thomas pumped his pistons.
We must hurry now, Winston. I have a lot to do.
Of course, Thomas. Ready when you are.
But Winston wasn't thinking about jobs. He was thinking about Sir Topham Hatt and his birthday. Thomas puffed into Marin Station.
Hurry, please. I have a lot to do. Now, Winston, we must hurry to Farmer Trotter's farm with the apples for his pigs.
But Winston didn't answer because Winston wasn't there.
Winston? Winston, where are you?
I was trying to look for something.
Looking for things is not being really useful. Come along. No time to lose.
Winston wanted to say more, but Thomas wasn't interested in what Winston was trying to do. Thomas had jobs to do. Thomas pulled into Farmer Trotter's farm.
Here are your apples, Farmer Trotter.
Thank you, Thomas. You're just in time and really useful.
That made Thomas very happy.
Now, Winston, we must hurry to the Whispering Woods to pick up some logs.
But Winston didn't answer because Winston wasn't there.
Winston? Winston, where are you?
I'm sorry, Thomas. I was looking for...
Looking for things is not being really useful. Being on time is. Come along.
Winston wanted to say more, but Thomas was already steaming away to his next job. At the Whispering Woods, the workman was happy to see Thomas.
Thank you, Thomas!
Now I have to hurry back to Sir Topham Hatt for tea time. Ready, Winston?
But Winston didn't answer because Winston wasn't there.
Winston? Winston, where are you?
I think I might have found something.
We don't have time to find things, Winston. Sir Topham Hatt will be waiting. Please go in front of me. Then I won't lose you again.
So, Thomas puffed away, with Winston right in front. Winston clickety-clacked slowly on the tracks. His eyes looked left and right into the woods.
Winston, it's almost tea time. We must hurry.
Then there was trouble. Winston slowed, but Thomas didn't. He was too busy rushing to be a really careful engine. With a crash and a bang, Thomas bumped into Winston. Luckily, no one was hurt, but Thomas felt terrible.
Winston, Sir Topham Hatt asked me to show you how to be really useful, not really silly. And now, we're late for Sir Topham Hatt on his birthday.
Winston smiled. He didn't want Thomas to be upset.
But Thomas, I think I found something that will make Sir Topham Hatt very happy.
Thomas was puzzled.
What have you been looking for?
I've been looking for the carriage Sir Topham Hatt used to ride in on his birthday.
This time, Thomas was excited to hear more. Thomas was excited to know more.
Tell me, Winston.
Look, Thomas, over there.
It's the old carriage, just like Salty said. You found it, Winston. We can take it to Victor at the steamworks. He'll clean it up, and we can give Sir Topham Hatt the biggest birthday surprise ever.
And Winston smiled his biggest smile. Thomas and Winston arrived at the docks. Sir Topham Hatt was waiting.
Thomas, you're late. Where have you been?
I'm sorry, sir, but may we show you the reason we're late? If you'll allow us, can we take you to Knapford Station?
Very well, Thomas. I will drive Winston.
Winston and Thomas smiled, and without saying another word, Thomas chuffed away. At Knapford Station, Thomas waited for Winston and Sir Topham Hatt.
Well, Thomas, why did you bring me to Knapford?
Just then, Edward chuffed into Knapford, pulling the old carriage. Sir Topham Hatt could not believe his eyes.
Oh, my. I remember this. Every year on my birthday.
Happy birthday, sir!
Sir Topham Hatt smiled.
What a marvelous surprise! Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Winston. I can see you have both had a really useful day.
And that made Thomas and Winston happier than ever. On the island of Sodor, there are lots of farms. There are pig farms, dairy farms, and sheep farms. Farmer McColl is very proud of his sheep. One morning, Sir Topham Hatt arrived at Tidmouth Sheds. It had been raining hard. Muddy puddles were everywhere.
Today is the Sodor Farmers' Fair. One of you must collect Farmer McCall's sheep and take them to the fairground. Whichever engine takes the sheep will have his photograph taken. The photograph will be on the front page of the Sodor Daily newspaper.
James's firebox fizzed.
Please, sir, can I take the sheep and have my photograph taken for the front page? After all, I am the cleanest and brightest red engine on Sodor.
Very well, James. You must go straight to Farmer McCall's farm. The fair starts at tea time. You mustn't be late.
So James chuffed off cheerfully. Farmer McCall was waiting for James at the farm.
Hello, James. Katie and my sheep are washed and ready to go. I want them to be the cleanest and smartest animals at the fair. Then they'll have their photograph on the newspaper's front page.
I will keep them as clean and smart as I am, sir. I, too, am to have my picture taken, and no one would want to photograph a dirty engine.
Good, James. Take the fastest and flattest track to the fair. You must be on time, and my sheep must not be joggled.
Katie bounded into James's cab,
See you at the fair, Farmer McCall!
and James puffed proudly away. James huffed to a halt at a junction. There were 2 tracks to the fairground. One track was wet and muddy from the rain. The other track was old and bumpy, but dry. James puffed, puzzled.
Farmer McCall told me to take the fast, flat track. But if I do that, I will get dirty, and so will Katie and the sheep. Then no one will want to put our photograph on the front page of the newspaper.
So, James didn't take the fast, flat, wet track. He took the bumpy, dry track instead. James jumped and juddered along the bumpy track.
Bubbling boilers! This track is very bumpy!
The sheep in the trailer jiggled, and the lock on the trailer gate rattled open. But James didn't know. He was too busy being the proudest and cleanest engine on Sodor. At Marin Station, James saw Emily collecting passengers. James wanted to tell Emily all about his special. He steamed to a stop.
Hello, Emily. I'm taking Farmer McCall's sheep and his dog Katie to the fairground. I'm going to have my photograph taken for the front page of the daily newspaper.
Emily gasped.
Oh my, James! How grand! Will Katie and Farmer McCall's sheep be in the photograph too?
They might be in the background.
Then there was trouble. The sheep pushed open the unlocked trailer gate. They clattered onto the platform.
Watch out, James! The sheep are running away!
Fenders and fireboxes. Come back here! Stop!
But the sheep weren't listening to James. They didn't want to go back in the trailer. Katie barked. James was stern.
No, Katie. You must stay clean in the cab. I will find the sheep.
And James steamed slowly forwards until he saw the sheep munching grass at the end of a field.
The fastest track to the end of the field is wet and muddy. I shall take the long track there and stay clean for the photographer.
James was pleased with his plan. So he chuffed carefully away on the very long track. He puffed up just as the last sheep was moving away.
Bother!
Katie barked. James snorted.
No, Katie. You must stay clean. I have another good idea. We will take the long, dry track to find the sheep.
James huffed to a halt by a field. The sheep were chewing the grass. Katie was happy to see her sheep. She barked and barked. James smiled.
Well done, Katie. My plan is working. When you bark, the sheep will come to you in my cab. All I have to do is wait and be clean.
Soon, all the sheep had gathered by James. Katie stopped barking.
Hurrah for me!
James was so pleased with himself, he let out the loudest and longest whistle ever. The sheep jumped in surprise. They ran and they raced away, right through the mud in the field.
Fenders and fireboxes! This is a disaster! I promised I would keep the sheep clean, and now they are dirty. I promised to take them to the fair, and now they are running away. I wanted to have my photograph on the front page of the Sodor newspaper, and now No one will want my photograph.
James sighed. Then he heard a rattle on the track. It was Thomas and Percy.
Hello, James. We're off to the fair.
Farmer McCall is waiting for you there. He is very excited to see his sheep in the show.
And Thomas and Percy whooshed away.
Farmer McCall is waiting for me to bring Katy and his sheep. I cannot let him down. It doesn't matter if we're dirty. We have to be there.
Katy barked. She could see the sheep running away to the farm.
Run and round up your sheep, Katy. I will whoosh down the muddy track to meet you by the farm.
So James's driver let Katy go, and James whooshed like the wind down the muddy, wet track. Soon, James was no longer James the bright red engine. He was James the muddy, messy one. But James didn't mind. James pulled up to Farmer McColl's halt. Katy and the sheep were waiting for him. They were covered in mud. But James didn't mind.
All aboard for the fair! Now I will whoosh like the wind down the fast, flat, and wet track.
At last, James arrived at the fairground. He was covered in mud from fender to footplate.
James, whatever has happened to you?
Oh my, how splendid! A hard-working engine with his sheep and sheepdog straight from the fields. That's the photograph I need for the front page.
James beamed from buffer to buffer. So, a very muddy James had his photograph taken with Katy the muddy sheepdog, Farmer McColl, Sir Topham Hatt, and lots of muddy sheep. James had never been happier to be the dirtiest engine on Sodor. It was planting time on the island of Sodor. The engines puffed and chuffed as the farmers plowed their fields and planted their seeds. One morning, Thomas puffed to Farmer McColl's farm, pulling flatbeds of straw. As Thomas puffed closer, he could see the sky was filled with crows. They were noisy.
Bustling fireboxes. Look at all those crows.
Farmer McColl was in his crop field. He was looking hot and bothered.
Shoo! Go away, you crows!
Hello, Farmer McCall. I've brought your straw.
Thank you, Thomas. Look at these crows. They're eating my seeds.
Don't you have a scarecrow to scare them away?
I do, Thomas, but it's in a terrible mess. I must fix it. So how can I stop the crows from eating my seeds?
An idea flew into Thomas's funnel.
I can scare those crows for you, Farmer McCall. I can hoot and toot.
Thomas bubbled his boiler and whistled loudly. With a flap and a squawk, the crows flew away. Farmer McColl was very pleased.
Well done, Thomas. Do you have time to help me?
I do now that I've delivered your straw.
Thank you, Thomas.
And Farmer McColl left to fix his scarecrow. Thomas watched Farmer McColl's field. Then 2 crows flapped down from the sky. They started to eat Farmer McColl's seeds.
The crows. They're back. I must hoot and toot.
But the crows didn't fly very far away.
Silly crows.
Thomas puffed forward. He hooted and tooted again to chase them away.
I must make sure those crows stay away.
So Thomas puffed after the crows, leaving the field behind. The crows flapped and flew. Thomas huffed after them.
The crows are flying towards the diesel works.
Thomas's boiler bubbled. It was hard work chasing crows. Thomas huffed into the diesel works. Den was there. He was snoozing sleepily. The crows flew down from the sky and landed on his cab. They scratched and they scuffed. They cackled and cawed. The crows were having fun.
There are the crows. I must hoot and toot.
Thomas blew his whistle loudly. With a flap and a squawk, the crows flew away.
Thomas! Why'd you have to hoot and toot when I'm having a snooze?
Sorry, Den. I'm chasing crows for Farmer McCall. I must go. Goodbye, Den.
Chasing crows.
And Thomas puffed quickly off. The crows flapped away, and Thomas chuffed after them.
The crows are flying towards the steamworks.
Thomas's firebox fizzed.
I must catch up with these crows.
Thomas puffed into the steamworks. Gordon was there. He was having a new coat of paint. The crows flew down from the sky. They landed on his boiler. They scratched and they scuffed. They cackled and cawed. The crows were having even more fun.
The crows! I must hoot and toot.
Thomas blew his whistle loudly.
Fizzling fireboxes!
And with a flap and a squawk, the crows flew away.
Sorry, Gordon. I'm chasing crows for Farmer McCall. I must go. Goodbye, Gordon.
And Thomas puffed quickly away.
Oh, the indignity.
The crows flew on. Thomas huffed his hardest after them.
They're flying towards the quarry.
Thomas rattled and raced after the crows.
They won't get away from me this time.
Thomas puffed into the quarry. Mavis was there. She was working hard shunting cars of slate. The crows flew down from the sky. They landed on Mavis's cars. They scratched and they scuffed. They cackled and cawed. The crows were having the most fun of all.
There are the crows. I must hoot and toot.
Mavis was surprised. She biffed and bashed into the cars.
Trembling tracks!
And with a flap and a squawk, the crows flew away.
Thomas, what are you doing?
Hello, Mavis. I'm chasing crows for Farmer McCall. I must go. Goodbye, Mavis.
Goodbye, Thomas.
Thomas clickety-clacked along the track. The crows were nowhere to be seen.
I must have chased them away for good. Farmer McCall will be pleased with me. I must tell him.
And Thomas huffed happily away. Thomas saw Farmer McCall. He was waving at Thomas to stop.
Hello, Farmer McCall. I've chased the crows far away from your field.
Thomas was pleased, but Farmer McCall wasn't pleased.
You haven't chased them as far as you think, Thomas. Look at my field.
Thomas couldn't believe his eyes. Farmer McCall's field was full of crows.
Fizzling fireboxes. I was so busy chasing crows across the island, the rest of the crows came back.
And they're eating my seeds.
Thomas felt terrible.
I'm sorry, Farmer McCall. I should have stayed by your field.
What am I going to do? My scarecrow won't be fixed till the morning.
Please, Farmer McCall, I can watch your field tonight. I shall hoot and toot, and I promise that I won't move a piston.
Very well, Thomas.
That night, Thomas watched Farmer McColl's field. He hooted and tooted all night long to scare away the crows. The next morning, not one single seed had been eaten. Farmer McColl arrived with his new scarecrow.
Well done, Thomas. You have been a really useful scarecrow. My scarecrow can take over now.
Thomas's boiler bubbled with pride.
Thank you, sir.
Thomas was very tired.
Now go and get some sleep, Thomas.
Yes, sir.
The engines on Sir Topham Hatt's railway are all special. Some are big, some are small. Some push freight cars, and some pull passenger carriages. And then there's Flynn, the Sodor Island fire engine. One morning, Flynn was in the steamworks. Flynn's road wheels were wobbly. Victor was fixing him. Flynn looked worried.
Have you finished yet, Victor?
Victor chuffed kindly.
Don't worry, my friend. All will be well.
Thomas wanted to make his friend Flynn feel happy.
You are a very special fire engine, Flynn. You can ride on the rails or roll on the roads.
But I haven't rolled on the roads for a very long time. My wheels will wobble.
No, they won't.
You're fixed. Now you can rescue on the roads as well as the rails.
Thank you, Victor. Thank you, Thomas.
And Flynn trundled slowly away. Flynn stopped at a quiet junction.
No one is here to see me. I'll try out my road wheels.
So Flynn rolled onto the road. He wobbled all over the road. He didn't feel like Fiery Flynn at all. Just then, Charlie chuffed by.
Hello, Flynn. What's the matter? You look like a big red wobble on wheels.
Flynn wanted to laugh, but he felt silly.
They need you at the Sodor Search and Rescue Center. You must hurry. If you can.
Flynn made a decision.
I don't want people to see me on the road. They'll think I'm a big red wobble on wheels. I'll roll back on the rails.
So Flynn wobbled back onto the tracks. At the Sodor Search and Rescue Center, Rocky was pleased to see Flynn.
There's an emergency, Flynn. Sir Topham Hatt's shed is on fire.
Firefighter Flynn, ready and steady, and raring to rescue.
You must hurry. Take the road. It's the fastest way.
Flynn gulped. He didn't want to take the road. He didn't want anyone to see him wobbling.
Don't worry, Rocky. I'll race on the rails. I'll be there faster than fast.
If you say so, Flynn.
But Flynn had already raced away. On the tracks, Flynn felt fast. Flynn felt fearless. Then he saw Butch. Butch had broken down. Flynn slowed.
Hello, Flynn. I need to be towed to the Search and Rescue Center. Can you help?
Flynn wanted to help Butch, but that meant he would have to roll onto the roads. And Flynn didn't want Butch and his driver to see him wobble. Flynn didn't want them to call him a big red wobble on wheels.
I'm very sorry, Butch. I have to race to an emergency. Sir Topham Hatt's shed is on fire.
And Flynn rattled on. At the level crossing, The gates were closed. Flynn had to stop. Going on the tracks was taking a very long time.
Flaming funnels! I'm late to fight Sir Topham Hatt's fire.
Then Flynn saw Bertie the bus. Bertie's engine had overheated. Bertie's passengers watched and waited.
Hello, Bertie. What's the problem? It's my engine, Flynn. I need water to cool it down. Can you help?
Flynn wanted to help Bertie, but that meant he would have to roll onto the road. And now there were even more people to watch him wobble. Flynn didn't want all Bertie's passengers to call him a big red wobble on wheels.
I'm very sorry, Bertie. I have to race to an emergency. Sir Topham Hatt's shed is on fire.
Flynn felt bad, but he didn't want to feel silly. So Flynn raced on. At last, Flynn pulled up to Sir Topham Hatt's shed. There was a crowd around the burning shed. Sir Topham Hatt was cross.
Flynn, where have you been? This was an emergency.
I raced as fast as I could, sir.
But why did you come on the rails? I told Rocky you must come on the road.
Flynn didn't know how to say that he felt silly on the road.
I'm sorry, sir.
No excuses, Flynn. No more delay.
Flynn looked at the fire. Then he looked at the crowd.
Oh, my. Now there are even more people to see me wobble. And even more people to call me a big red wobble on wheels. I can't go onto the road.
Flynn felt terrible.
I'm not fiery, Flynn. I'm frightened, Flynn. Sir Topham Hatt's shed is burning down, and it's all my fault.
Flynn looked at the crowd. They were waiting and watching.
Hooray for Flynn!
Sodor's firefighting hero has arrived!
Hooray!
Flynn looked and he listened. Then his wheels stopped wobbling.
I am Fiery Flynn. I am Sodor's firefighter. I want to be a hero. I don't mind if they call me a big red wobble on wheels. I'm raring to rescue. I'm coming, sir!
Flynn raced to the road. His wheels wobbled, but Flynn didn't mind. He was Firefighter Flynn of the Road and Rail.
Stand back for Flynn!
Water flew into the fire. The flames flickered and fizzled out.
Well done, Flynn.
Thank you, sir. But now I must hurry. I have others to rescue.
First, Flynn rescued Bertie. He pumped in water to cool Bertie's engine. Charlie chuffed to a stop. He chuckled.
There's my friend, the big red wobble on wheels.
This time, Flynn didn't mind Charlie's joke.
I may wobble, but I'm raring to rescue. Bye, Bertie.
Flynn flashed a smile. Bertie beamed.
Thank you, Flynn. Hooray for you!
Next, Flynn pulled up to Butch.
Here I am, Butch. Ready and raring to rescue.
Butch was surprised.
Thank you, Flynn.
Flynn raced along the roads. Flynn arrived at the Search and Rescue Center. Thomas was there.
Hello, Flynn. You are not wobbling at all.
Flynn was surprised.
You mean I'm not a big red wobble on wheels?
Thomas laughed.
No, you're a big red hero on wheels.
And this time, Flynn's wheels did wobble. With joy. The winter holiday season is always special on the island of Sodor. There are presents and prizes and gifts and surprises for everyone. One snowy day, Edward and Thomas were at Brendam Docks. Thomas was shunting cars of brightly wrapped presents.
Oh my, Thomas. The winter holiday season is my favorite time of the year.
It's mine too, Edward.
Just then, Salty trundled over.
Hello, me hearties. Oh, that's a fine load of presents you have there. Everyone a surprise.
That's right, Salty. Now I must hurry to deliver them to Knapford Station. They must be there in time for the children's party.
Salty, do you like presents and parties?
Salty smiled.
Oh, I don't have time for presents and parties, me hearty. I love a good story, me. That's all I need.
Salty chugged away, cheerful. Edward wished worried.
I'm sure a good story isn't all Salty needs. Salty needs a winter holiday present. I will find him one at once. Victor will have something for Salty.
And Edward huffed happily away to the steamworks. Victor and Kevin were there.
Hello, Victor. Hello, Kevin. I've come to find a winter holiday present for Salty.
Well, that's a very good idea, Edward. Chuff around until you find something special for Salty.
Thank you, Victor.
Then Edward saw Rosie. She was shining and smiling with a bright new coat of paint. An idea flew into Edward's funnel.
I will take Salty a pot of bright paint.
So Edward chuffed cheerfully back to the docks and to Salty.
Salty, I've brought you a happy winter holiday present. It's a pot of bright green paint. Now you can be as green as a Christmas tree.
Salty was surprised.
Oh, shiver me timbers, Edward. I've a story about green paint.
Tell me, Salty.
Well, once long ago, there was no red paint on the island. So, them's in charge painted me green. But then, no one could find me, because they were all still a-looking for a red engine. So, you see, I could never be painted green again. But I thank ye, Edward, for your kindness.
Edward's firebox fizzed.
That was a good story.
Salty chuckled.
I likes a good story, me.
So Edward clickety-clacked back along the track to the steamworks. Victor was surprised.
Salty didn't want to be green. I must find him another present.
Kevin beamed.
I have one for you, Edward. Follow me.
Kevin held high the fancy funnel. Edward wished worried.
Salty's a diesel, Kevin. He doesn't need a funnel.
I know, but this one is fancy.
Edward had to agree. Salty might like a fancy funnel. So Edward raced like the wind all the way to Salty.
Happy winter holiday, Salty. I brought you a fancy funnel. Now you will be the most special diesel on the whole of Sodor.
Salty was surprised.
Shiver me timbers, Edward. Ha! Ha ha! I've a story about fancy funnels.
Please tell me, Salty.
Well, once long ago, I was given a fancy funnel. Very like this one, me hearty. Cranky lowered it onto me. Then, the strangest thing happened. It shook and it shuddered. It wobbled and it wibbled. Till it rolled to the ground and into the sea. Splash, sploosh, never to be seen again. So, thank ye, Edward, for your kindness. But I won't be taking your fancy funnel.
Edward whistled.
I see. That's a good story.
Ah, that's right. Ha! I likes a good story, me.
So Edward steamed slowly away and left the fancy funnel with Kevin to find another winter holiday present for Salty. Now, Edward was worried.
Oh me, oh my! I must find a present for Salty.
Then, Edward saw the Christmas trees.
A Christmas tree! I'm sure that would be a very special winter holiday present for Salty.
So Edward wheeshed and he whooshed all the way back to Salty.
Happy winter holidays, Salty! I've brought you a Christmas tree.
Salty was surprised.
Oh, shiver me timbers, Edward! Oh, I've a story about Christmas trees.
Tell me, Salty, please.
Well, once, a long, long time ago, I was given a Christmas tree, me hearty. It was grand. It was green. It was great. But the smell of the sea made it sickly. It shriveled, it shrunk, and it shook like a wobbly weed. So, I thank ye, Edward, for your kindness, but I won't be taking your tree.
Edward felt terrible.
Oh, me. Oh, my. All I wanted to do was to give you a winter holiday present. And I haven't.
Oh, but you have, Edward. Think, me hearty. What do I like most of all?
Edward thought, and he thought.
A story! Of course! That's what you've been telling me all along!
That's right, Edward.
I've given you a story!
And I thank ye, Edward. Now, gather round, me hearties, and listen to me story.
So Edward and his friends gathered round Salty, and Salty began.
Once, a kind and wise engine, called Edward, wanted to give an old red diesel a winter holiday present. So away he went, a-looking around the island. And what that kind and wise engine called Edward gave Salty was just what that old red diesel wanted. A new story to tell.
That was a wonderful story, Salty.
Then Sir Topham Hatt arrived, dressed as Santa Claus.
Happy winter holidays to all our friends at the docks.
All the engines tooted and hooted, and Edward whistled loudest of all. The engines on Sodor work hard to keep the island clean and tidy. There is always garbage to be removed, scrap to be scrapped, and junk to be junked. But the engines are always happy because they all want to be really useful. One day, Percy and Diesel were collecting scrap. Their last stop was the Duke and Duchess of Boxford's summer house. The Duchess had a very unusual piece of junk for them.
What is it, ma'am?
It is a calliope. A calliope is an organ that played music at summer fairs years ago. Sadly, this one has been forgotten about and left outside to rust.
Percy's eyes were wide with wonder.
Oh, my!
So now, I'm afraid you must take it to the smelter's yard. It has to be scrapped.
Yes, Duchess. So Percy and Diesel coupled up to the Calliope.
Wouldn't it be wonderful to hear the Calliope play music again?
Pah, it's just a jumble of junk. The sooner it's scrapped, the better.
But Percy didn't think the organ was junk. He thought it was special.
If I can make the Calliope work, it won't have to be scrapped.
This made Diesel hoot with laughter.
That tangle of tubes? That pile of old pipes? Have you popped a piston?
Percy's wheels wobbled. He didn't want to look silly in front of Diesel, but he didn't want the Calliope to be scrapped either.
I will make it play before we get to the smelter's yard.
The two engines heaved and hauled the heavy scrap. Percy puffed and panted as he pushed the freight cars.
Bust my buffers! This is hard work. I must stop for more water.
So Percy and Diesel stopped at the water tower. Diesel grumped.
Ha! Diesels never have to stop for water.
We have to stop, Diesel. Steamies can't work without water.
An idea popped in Percy's pistons.
Maybe water will make the Calliope work too.
So Percy rolled backwards.
Whoa!
Diesel was surprised. Water splished and splashed into the organ pipes. Percy listened for the sound of music, but the only sound was a strange gurgling and a groaning and a glugging that made the Calliope shudder and shake. Diesel laughed loudly. Percy's face flushed. Percy hadn't fixed the Calliope.
I'm sure I can make this Calliope play.
The two engines trundled on to the smelter's yard. Percy's firebox flickered and fizzed.
Bust my buffers. Pushing scrap is hard work. Diesel, I have to stop for more coal.
So Percy and Diesel stopped at the coal hopper. Diesel hooted huffily.
Ha! Diesels never have to stop for coal.
Diesel, all steamies need coal.
An idea began to bubble in Percy's boiler. So Percy rolled backwards and surprised Diesel again. Coal clattered and clanged into the organ pipes.
What are you doing now?
Coal makes me work. Maybe coal will make the Calliope work.
Suddenly, a big cloud of coal dust puffed out of the Calliope. Percy was covered in soot from footplate to fender. Diesel chortled and chuckled. Percy's face flushed. He still hadn't fixed the Calliope.
I'm sure I can make this Calliope play.
Percy and Diesel clickety-clacked along the tracks. Now they were nearly at the smelter's yard. Percy was worried. Soon the organ would be scrapped. Then the engines had to stop at a crossing. Sir Topham Hatt was there with his car. It would not stop.
Can we help you, sir?
No, thank you, Percy.
Sir Topham Hatt's helpers struggled and strained to push the car faster and faster until the engine started. Percy and Diesel rattled on. Percy had a plan.
Pushing Sir Topham Hatt's car made it start. Perhaps if I push the Calliope, it will play.
So, wheel turn by wheel turn, Percy pushed the Calliope faster and faster. The organ rattled and raced along the track. The pipes clattered and clacked, but no music played.
I must push fast. I must save it from the smelter's yard.
The Calliope rattled along in front of Percy, but still no music played. Then there was trouble. Percy was at the top of Gordon's Hill. He stopped, but the Calliope didn't. The coupling had snapped.
Bust my buffers!
The Calliope rattled and raced down the hill. With a crash and a bash, it smashed off the track.
Oh, no.
Percy felt terrible.
The Calliope is sure to be scrapped now.
Percy sighed. Steam swirled from his pistons and whimpered from his whistle. Diesel chuckled.
That's the only music I've heard all day.
That made an idea begin to bubble in Percy's boiler.
Wheeshing whistles. Now I know how to make the Calliope play.
Percy's driver connected a hose from Percy's cylinder drain to the Calliope. Steam shot into the organ. The Calliope let out a rasp and a puff and a wheeze. But then, with a cough and a splutter, it began to play. Percy beamed from buffer to buffer. Then Sir Topham Hatt arrived.
Percy, what is making that music?
It's the Calliope, sir. We were told to take it to the smelter's yard, but I got it to work.
Well done, Percy. I am very proud of you. You have saved an important piece of Sodor's history.
Percy peeped with pride.
Take it to the steamworks. Victor will fix it properly.
Yes, sir.
At the steamworks, the Calliope was painted and polished. The brass pipes gleamed in the sun. Percy puffed proudly. Everybody wanted to hear the Calliope play. Percy fired his furnace, bubbled his boiler, and shot steam into the Calliope. It was the sweetest sound on Sodor. In the hills of Sodor, the narrow gauge engines puff and chuff their hardest. Sometimes they chuff too hard, and then there's trouble. One morning, Peter Sam puffed into the depot. He had been shunting coal all night. Thomas was there.
Hello, Thomas. You look cheery. I am. I always like puffing to the hills. I am to take Mr. Percival down to Knapford Station.
Peter Sam hooted happily. Then Mr. Percival arrived.
Good morning, Peter Sam. Good morning, Thomas.
Good morning, sir.
I must meet with Sir Topham Hatt. All the other engines are busy today, so I have told them that you, Peter Sam, will be in charge while I am away.
Peter Sam gasped. He had never been in charge before.
Of course, sir.
Please remember that Victor will come this afternoon for his weekly repair visit. You must let him know if any engine needs to be fixed.
Of course, sir.
But don't bother Victor before his visit with little things. Victor is a very busy engine.
I know, sir. I won't bother Victor.
Good luck, Peter Sam. Being in charge is fun. You make all the decisions.
Peter Sam watched Thomas wheesh away with Mr. Percival. His wheels wobbled.
Being in charge for the day is very exciting, but maybe just a little bit scary.
Then Rheneas chuffed in.
Sir Handel is creaking and croaking at the halt. You must fetch Victor.
Peter Sam looked serious.
No, Rheneas. We mustn't bother Victor with little things. I will chuff to Sir Handel.
And Peter Sam chuffed away to the halt. Sir Handel was creaking.
Oh my, Sir Handel.
Please fetch Victor.
Peter Sam wheeshed. Sir Handel needed fixing, but Mr. Percival had told him not to bother Victor. So, Peter Sam made a decision.
I'm sure I can fix you, Sir Handel.
Really?
Peter Sam huffed, and he puffed, He thought hard of the very best way to fix Sir Handel. Then, an idea bubbled in his boiler.
Roll forward.
Sir Handel creaked slowly forward.
Ah, yes. You need oil, Sir Handel. Then you'll be rolling in no time.
So, Peter Sam's driver poured oil into Sir Handel. Sir Handel wished worried.
Now, roll forward, Sir Handel.
Sir Handel creaked louder and longer than ever, and he couldn't roll forward at all.
Bust my buffers. Maybe that wasn't the right thing to do.
Then Rheneas chuffed up.
Skarloey's by the water tower. Something is wrong with his funnel. You must fetch Victor.
Peter Sam looked serious.
No, Rheneas. We mustn't bother Victor. I will chuff to Skarloey.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
So Rheneas chuffed away, and Peter Sam left Sir Handel creaking to puff to Skarloey at the water tower. Skarloey was wishing with worry.
Hello, Peter Sam. My funnel is blocked. I can't puff or chuff. Please fetch Victor.
Peter Sam was worried. He hadn't fixed Sir Handel, and now Skarloey needed help. But he had told Mr. Percival he wouldn't bother Victor.
Don't worry, Skarloey. I'm sure I can fix you.
Really?
Peter Sam huffed, and he puffed. He thought hard of the very best way to fix Skarloey. Then, an idea popped in his pistons.
A little water down your funnel will soon clear it.
So, water splashed into Skarloey's funnel.
There you are, Skarloey. You can chuff cheerfully now.
But Skarloey couldn't chuff at all.
Oh, that water has put my firebox out, Peter Sam.
Oh, my. I'm sorry, Skarloey. Maybe sploshing water wasn't the right thing to do.
Then Rheneas steamed by.
Duncan's rods are rattling. He needs Victor.
No, Rheneas. We mustn't bother Victor with little things.
So Peter Sam left Skarloey, and he puffed away to find Duncan. Then, with a rattle, Peter Sam puffed to a halt.
Bust my buffers. I was so busy not bothering Victor, I didn't stop at the coal hopper after my busy night. Now I've run out of coal. I can't be in charge. I can't look after my friends. And I can't puff to find Victor. This is a disaster.
Then he heard Rheneas.
Rheneas, fetch Victor. I've broken down.
I'm sorry, Peter Sam, but you said we can't bother Victor with the little things.
And Rheneas steamed on. Peter Sam felt silly and alone. Then he remembered what Thomas had said.
When you're in charge, you can make the decisions. So, I can decide that broken engines aren't just little things. And I can decide that we need to bother Victor.
So Peter Sam whistled as long and as loudly as he could.
Rheneas!
Suddenly, he heard the clickety-clack of an engine. It was Rheneas.
Yes?
Rheneas, you were right.
Rheneas was puzzled.
I made a silly decision not to fetch Victor. We need to bother Victor. Please, will you fetch him?
Of course I will, Peter Sam.
Soon, Victor had whooshed all the way to help Peter Sam. Victor had brought coal for him.
Why didn't you find me earlier?
Because Mr. Percival said not to bother you until your visit.
Bother me? It's my job to fix really useful engines in trouble, and it makes me very happy. Puff with me.
So Victor fixed Skarloey's funnel.
Thank you, Victor.
And he fixed her handles creaking.
Thank you, Victor.
And then Peter Sam chuffed back to the depot. Just as Mr. Percival puffed in on Thomas.
How was your day in charge, Peter Sam?
Peter Sam chuffed and puffed. Then he smiled.
My day wasn't a bother at all, sir.
Mr. Percival was pleased. Victor chuckled.
That's right, sir. No bother at all.
On the island of Sodor, there are lots of engines. Some are steamies. Some are diesels. Sometimes diesels and steamies are not the best of friends. But they all want to be really useful. One morning, Gordon was taking passengers to Brendam Docks. Diesel, Harry, and Bert were shunting flatbeds. They clanged and banged loudly. That made Gordon grumpy.
Out of my way! Express coming through!
That made Diesel devious.
Out of my way! Flatbed coming through!
You think you're so grand.
But you're not!
Gordon glared at the Diesels.
I am Gordon. I am blue and grand. You are smelly diesels. You are yellow and stripy. Yellow and stripy is not grand.
Gordon sniffed snootily. Then he whooshed forward grandly, straight into Diesel's flatbed. Gordon's buffer was bent.
Oh, the indignity.
The Diesels chuckled and chortled. Then the dock manager arrived.
Gordon, you must deliver some engine parts to the diesel works.
Gordon grunted. The Diesels giggled.
Then you are to pick up more passengers here at the docks.
So Gordon was uncoupled from the express. Later, Gordon steamed snootily into the diesel works.
Engine parts coming through!
Gordon was far too busy being snooty to see the freight car on the tracks in front of him. Gordon hit the freight car with a smash and a bash. With a clang and a clatter, Gordon's buffer crashed onto the tracks.
Bust my buffers!
Den and Dart were surprised.
I don't think that was meant to happen.
What he means is, you need fixing.
We'll fix you.
Gordon was surprised.
Diesels can't fix a steamy. That's impossible. Only steamies fix steamies. I must puff away. My pistons still pump, and my wheels still whir. Goodbye.
And Gordon steamed away without a buffer. But outside the diesel works, Gordon met Mavis.
Oh my, Gordon! Whatever has happened to your buffer? You can't puff on without a buffer. It's not safe.
Gordon tried to grin.
I'm sure I'll be safe, Mavis.
No, you won't, Gordon. Chuff back at once. Den and Dart will fix you in no time.
Gordon didn't want to chuff back, but Mavis was stern.
Very well, Mavis.
And Gordon huffed back to Den and Dart.
We thought you'd be back.
We found just what you need.
Follow us!
Gordon grunted.
Come along, Gordon.
So, Gordon did as he was told. In the shed, Den and Dart whirred with pride.
This is your new buffer.
What he means is, it'll be your buffer while we fix your old one.
Gordon stuttered and stammered. There was a yellow and black stripy diesel buffer.
This is for Diesels.
It's good.
It's grand.
It's a buffer.
Gordon groaned.
Oh, the indignity.
Don't be silly, Gordon. Goodbye.
Gordon huffed huffily.
I was right. Diesels cannot fix steamies. I must go.
And Gordon steamed quickly away. But outside the diesel works, Gordon met Salty.
Howdy do, me hearty. Huh? Shiver me axles. You've no buffer. That'll never do.
Gordon groaned.
I'll be fine.
An engine's not an engine without a buffer. Them's the rules of the railway. Chuff back quick, me hearty.
So, Gordon grumped grumpily and chuffed back to Den and Dart. They were waiting with Gordon's new buffer.
It's ready.
Just for you.
Gordon shuddered and shuddered.
Oh, the indignity.
Later, Gordon huffed huffily away to the docks to pick up his waiting passengers. The yellow and black buffer was bold and bright, and very like a diesel.
I shall pick up my passengers faster than fast. I hope the docks are quiet. Then no other engines will see me.
But the docks weren't quiet. They were busy. There were lots of engines to see Gordon with his yellow and black stripy diesel buffer. Diesel clattered over.
Honking horns, Gordon. You're Gordon the Diesel now.
Gordon felt terrible.
I'm not grand, Gordon. I'm yellow and stripy. I am Gordon the Diesel.
Thomas puffed over.
What's the matter, Gordon?
My buffer fell off at the diesel works. Den and Dart gave me this while they fix my bright, shiny, steamy buffer.
Thomas was surprised.
Bubbling boilers, Gordon. I didn't know diesels could fix steamies. That buffer means you can still chuff and puff.
That made Gordon stop huffing.
Bust my buffers. You're right.
And Gordon puffed slowly away with his passengers. Gordon clickety-clacked along the tracks. Now everyone could see Gordon with his yellow and black diesel buffer. But Gordon didn't feel silly anymore. He was happy to be seen.
I have been fixed by the diesels. I am safe. I am Gordon, and I can still pull the express.
Hooray for Gordon and the Diesels! Hooray!
Gordon smiled.
Yes, indeed. Hooray for me! And hooray for the diesels!
At last, Gordon puffed into the diesel works. He had dropped off his passengers, and everyone had cheered his yellow and black stripy diesel buffer. Dan and Dart were waiting with Gordon's bright, shiny, steamy buffer.
You won't have to run away anymore.
What he means is, we fixed your buffer.
Gordon smiled his very best smile. Dan and Dart were surprised.
I was silly, and maybe just a little snooty, to think diesels can't fix steamies. You can, and you have. We are, I see now, all engines together.
What's he saying?
Dunno.
I'm saying thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
And you're always welcome here, Gordon. Buffer or no buffer.
And that made Gordon the Grand very happy.